So we are talking now about configuration in .NET, and this is very important thing. Are you with me? Not everybody. So why is configuration important? I will explain also what is that, and more or less everybody knows what it is, but in many projects today, what we work with the professional developers, we figure out that the configuration is not done the best way. And technology, especially cloud and so on, change over time. And .NET Framework provides a concept of configuration which helps you survive this change. For example, imagine now you start a program, and the program is called Notepad. Yeah? And when you start a Notepad, you can provide a parameter, argument. And when you provide arguments, it is a name of the file which Notepad is going to open. If the file is there, it will open it. If it's not there, it will break it. So it's not about Notepad. It's about application which can be influenced by configuration. And in this case, configuration is command line argument. Many more complex applications than Notepad, they have some file where the configuration is in there, and they read. Some even more complex applications, they load configuration from database. But then there is another question. How does the application know where is the database? You need a configuration. Configuration for configuration. And things can get more complex. How many of you already heard about Docker containers? Docker? So just few of you. In the next semester, we will learn all semester about Docker containers and cloud and so on. And this is a technology, something, yeah? It's very popular right now. And when you put your application, for example, imagine now this console application, which we have now, this animal thing, yeah? And we put it in this technology and let it run in cloud somewhere, how to configure it? So the idea is now, whatever happened with our application in the future, we are going to provide some way of configuration for this application and hope that the customer or developer who use our components and application do not need to change anything. It will just work in cloud, on your machine, on a friend machine. Doesn't matter. And this is something what we are talking about right now. So to make it a little bit more precise, let me do following. Do you know what are environment variables? Environment variables in every operative system. I think in our second lesson, I talked a little bit about that. I think talked a little bit more about it, if I still remember. And environment variables, there are in every operative system. For example, if you come somewhere here in one prompt and type set, you will get a list of environment variables. And these are variables like this: all user profile, at base, and most application, when you're installing the application, they change something here. They put these values inside. And there are two types of environment variables. There is a system environment variable, system services and daemons are writing and reading there. And there are those environment variables which are only in your user context. So that means if I have environment variable as me, and environment variable is called ABC, yeah, then it doesn't mean the sum of you have this variable. So it is in user context. If it is variable, environment variable in a system context, then every user on that machine will make usage of this variable. And that's very important grouping of things: user specific and system specific. And this is also very important regarding security. Everything, which is a system-wide thing, typically user should not be able to change. Only admins. And this was like 20, 30 years ago, big problem of Windows security because everybody was touching everything. One application, install application, changing something somewhere and damage all other applications. Today, this is not possible. It's completely not possible. I have no time to talk about that, how that works. but it works really, really good. So to see environment variables, there is also another possibility. You can come here. You can set environment variable by setting a variable like this. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Or even easier for you would be something like this. You can run environment variables. If you can type here and say environment, these are environment settings, and you can get this thing. And when you have this, look at this, this is the user context or user type, we say that, and this is a system context. These variables, system variable, every user will see it, and these variables are only I will see. And for example, for this specific example, sorry, I have closed that. I have variables, so you click here, and I have variables A1, AAA. I will play with these variables in next demos and so on. I call them with this stupid name AAA because it's sorted alphabetically, and I wanted they are on top there that we don't scroll down and look for that. So I will come to that back in a minute. Environment one. Something how to set them when you work in your project and so on. You can set it this way. I'll show that right now. You can set it. You can read it this way, and you can set it this way. So, you program. This is the program. And how to configure the program. We have three most important options to work with configuration. It is command line argument. I run the program and provide command lines. The second one is configuration file. And the third one is environment variables. So now, every of this, if you want that your application knows and deal with that, you need to provide some code. And the problem is that developers who work with .NET, they really don't know .NET. And they provide implement 3 times. One's code to parse in command line input arguments, another code to read the file, and another code to read environment variables. And somebody can ask, why is that so important? Why cannot make decision and use, for example, only configuration file? You can, but you are not in charge of making this decision. For example, if you have the file is good when the customer is running the application like a laptop, and has access to this file, and now you need to change something, for example, color of application. You go to configuration file of the application, open up the file. I'll show that in a moment. You change the color from yellow to green, close the file, reset the application, and everything works fine. But if you take this application and upload it to cloud, then the customer cannot go to the cloud, take a set on a computer, which exists somewhere, nobody knows where, and change something in a file. Then it must be something else. So, and when you do the configuration universal way, then whatever happened of this, the configuration will work. And that's what I'm going to show. 3 ways of configuration: environment variables, settings file, and command line arguments. So what is command line arguments? For example, I'm starting my program and I say minus my setting is 1. So that means that there is somewhere configuration variable in the code where I by code can say, hey, give me my setting value, and the value will be xy. Next time I start the application and say my setting value is blue, then this value will be blue, and application will do something else. You get it? That's very good. So you can provide even more of this. Minus something, minus something, minus something. So why minus? Usually on Windows, traditionally was never minus, it was always minus. Yeah. After Microsoft moved to open source, then Microsoft also say, okay, if it's open source standard, then we are open source, then let's change everything. And this should become standard for us. In .NET Framework, original .NET Framework, this was not the case. It was a Windows-ish. Yeah? Now it's coming actually from Linux. And this is why it's minus one. So, something like, for example, command line interface.net, yeah? When you start .NET, minus list SDKs, minus list SDKs, one minus is missing, yeah? It will show you. .NET build .NET publish, all this what we learned last time, it's actually command line. So, example settings. Fine. You have a file, and file in which format is that? JSON. So what does it mean, JSON, for everybody who we didn't learn that here in this course till now? It looks like this. Variable name or attribute name, code, and the value. And the values have to be distinguished between strings and numbers. I put all these examples. There's integer, there's a float number or double, and then there's a string on top of it. And these are settings. So if you would start this now, this is another example of that. And what you see different, setting 1, 2, 3, setting. I will come to this. Imagine now you want to provide these settings how to start application, not from this file, but you want provided by configuration command line arguments. You will start your application, it's called blah, 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 .exe, minus setting 1, hello, smiley, minus setting 2, blah, 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 minus setting 3, and so on. So this is cool, but imagine now this file can be so big. Yeah, but in command line, it's not so easy. You will see now in a moment, I'll show that, yeah? When you have such a command line, this really doesn't make fun. And so now we need somehow to combine these words. And here's a question. How to read the configuration of settings in a .NET? And here's the code. Let's try to read that together. Or let's say I need a pointer here. First of all, we need something called configuration builder. Do you remember from our last session, this host builder? This is coming from dependency injection. This is why we had this first session before this. And we have something, it's called, what is this? It's configuration rule. So when you see somewhere here, we are dealing with interface, it means probably behind implementation of this thing can be multiple implementation. So what I want to point out now, this multiple implementation is file setting, environment variables, command line arguments, and if you like, you can do something else, database, reading from database or from email or your WhatsApp or whatever you like. Yeah, Microsoft doesn't have for that as a standard. Okay, internet configuration rule, is that what you need? What happened here as next? As a next, we are coming here, we create this builder, then, we create this builder, then we say, please use this provider, JSON file, use command line, and build them. So what is here missing is environment variables. I will show that in the code. It's just example. Okay. So which says here, hey, my configuration is built from command line, JSON file. Good. So what now? How to read it? So I will come to that. Before I come to this, let's say, show this in the code. In your repository, you have a config sample. It's called config sample. Config sample starting here. This sample demonstrates everything you can do with configuration, and we will go now step by step. It is not nice programming example. Don't look for that now. It is just what we have typed in to show all tricks with configuration. You will never have all of this in your application. It's just everything here. So let's start line by line introduce. When I start the application, first of all, I say I have to add following NuGet packages. configuration binder. Binder is dependency injection. Whatever it has some binder, builder, it's always dependency injection. You don't need to know how that works. You just need to always, I remember dependency injection was when many things are coming together. I just need to say, give me that, and you will get that. Here's the configuration. Now, I have command line, environment variables, JSON, and this file extension is just implicitly added for whatever reason then. So this is, I have a builder, and actually this command should be this Fluent API, when you have something like this, new class name dot blah dot blah dot blah dot blah, this is called Fluent API. Like this. We had this Fluent API, if you remember our previous example. Previous example was here. New host, create default builder, dot blah dot blah dot blah dot blah. Yeah? This is called Fluent API. I personally hate this API, yeah? But it's kind of standard. You can love it or hate it. It's up to you. It's nothing better. Nothing good. I don't like it because it's unreadable. You cannot put the breakpoints so easy. Yeah? You put it, you get something like this, and you have more at blah, then you have all screen red. And I don't feel that good when I see something like that. It's just frustrating. This is why I don't like that. But it is. Please, the question.
Can you say in the real life application, let's suppose we are building a weather app. So now it has module like everything shows weather details. And then one we are putting in production in Europe and one we are putting in production in the States. So now States use Fahrenheit and Europe uses Celsius. Mm-hmm. So in the setting, we can always modify for Europe, just put Celsius over there, and for the States, we just put Fahrenheit. Would that be a real life?
So the question is now, how about application which are user dependent? Yeah, I would say, for example, this is what I'm talking about right now. You start application and configuration is in there. So what the question is right now is, that's fine. I have started the application and using what is using. Yeah, we will see that. And now at some moment of time, for example, it's a weather application. And some users want to see in Fahrenheit and some users want to see in Celsius. Yeah, in that case, you are not putting this kind of setting here in the configuration. It will be some other kind of configuration, which we typically call user profile settings. And these user profile settings will be then loaded from somewhere, typically from some database, whatever that might be. Cosmos DB today, or maybe SQL DB, maybe MySQL, I don't know. That doesn't matter. It's just interface to me. Database is interface, yeah?
If it is static, so if we are just putting in production in the starting itself and saying whenever it's in Europe, it needs to show the temperature in Celsius, and if it's in States, so wouldn't we be putting that particular definition, the settings itself in the beginning?
No, it depends on the settings. If we state to keep it simple, the question is now weather, which I like Celsius, I don't like Fahrenheit. Yeah, it just makes me crazy. So, and when I start the application, typically, what is the default value for me? The default value, it is how smart you implement your application. You could do following. Everybody who's coming from Europe, and you can check that. You have in a local setting, now you have to know what kind of application is that. If the application is browser in every request sends you, it's called locale. It's locality where you come from, not where you are right now, GPS or something like that. It's just user is from Germany. Or it sends you, it sends you language which you have set in the browser. And according to this language, if the language is German, you will probably use Celsius. And this is what you put as a default value for user. And if user change this later, you will store that by interface in a database, user profile that, and next time can be Fahrenheit ++ the user likes, don't care. Yeah? So this is how that works. But this is an interesting question. But this is configuration, not in user context, in application context, which you can extend. In that specific case, you would do it in your application. So To do this, let's start the application. Application adding environment variable, JSON file. It's reading from this JSON file. So I will open up this file and show you that. And it's also reading from this JSON file. So you can have multiple JSON files and configuration can be changed. Yeah. For example, this one can be downloaded on the fly for the user. And it's automatically matched with this. I'll show this. And so on. Before I start the application, look at now. I come here, right mouse click, properties, and go to debug section. And in debug section, come on, open up. For some reason, isn't over anything. Once again, debug. So here's now. I know it is new Visual Studio .NET 7. It's fresh 1 week. Yeah, can everything happen? So you can open up this, and you can specify here when you start. When I hit F5 in Visual Studio, it will always provide me these arguments. Why is that good? Because if you every time need to go to console application, start terminal, start your application, tap, 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 your parameter, you get crazy, yeah? So with this, you provide this once, hit F5, and every time Visual Studio start your application with these command line arguments. Let us take a look shortly on these command line arguments. I make it a little bit bigger. I start application.exe with --AAA000, colon root, font size, state sleeping, my settings. Oh, here's interesting. I will come to that. My settings, bold, column, some float, and some number. Oh, this is kind of complicated. I will come to that. So this is how my application is started, and let's start it. I put a breakpoint here. Hit F5. And look at now, I will take a look on command line arguments. In command line arguments, I have all of this stuff. And this is how application really gets command line arguments. So without this configuration system, which I'm going to show you right now, you would have to go through all these parameters, arguments for each argument, and do something with that to make it understandable. But this is a bunch of code. You will see you will spend a day on that. Especially if you are not really good software developer right now in C# and you are learning, you're spending your time. So this is why we are giving you this configuration right now with examples how to use. I say build, and now it's my configuration done. And this configuration is now how done? It takes my command line arguments, it reads my two JSON files, this test me and application settings JSON, and also reads environment variables for operating system. Put them all together, and they are accessible by the same API, and you even don't know if this parameter coming from command line argument or wherever it comes. Did you get that? It takes all of them, put them together in a list. How the list is materialized doesn't matter. It's done for you. For example, I have a configuration and want to read the column. Okay, F10, color is blue. Where does the color come from? I can go here to environment setting and see here there is no color. Yeah? Okay, it's not from here. But it can be from here. Color is red. There is a color in settings. And I can come also here. Okay, you remember this? Lunch, color blue. So, and here's one interesting case. I have a color on two configuration places. In the settings file and in command line arguments. So which one will take? Come on. There is a rule. It took a value blue. The value blue comes from here, from command line. but it also comes from setting, which is red. So that means command line seems to be more important. Why is that more important? It is not in general, it's just in this case. This is most important. The last one is most important one. This one overrides this one overrides this one overrides this one, and this is how it works. Okay? If you want that is settings more important, then we will put these adjacent settings as the last line. That's it. You decide that. That's it. Now, this is the column, font size. And if you open up this, you can see I have 4 providers for implementation of configuration root interface. And somewhere here, there are these values. You can see that. So, configuration size, configuration is 10. Font size is 10. State is sleeping. Let's come here. So there is also here, if you come here to launch settings, you don't have to every time come here, right mouse click, this is nice, user interface, but if you want to do it quickly, you come to that here, and it's everything what is in this user interface dialog you can find here, and you can change it also here. And we had font size is 10 and state sleeping. Actually, these 2 values, which I have read right now in the configuration. Now I'm reading the value setting 1, setting 2, and setting 3. And setting 1, setting 2, and setting 3 are coming from here. Look, setting 1, setting 2, and setting 3. You see that? 1, 2, 3, 7.21. Now I read all of them and look at what here happened. It is hello, it's okay. 1, 2, 3, and here's 7.2. So the problem is here that this value set in 3, look at here, it is quoted. It's a string, it is not number, and you want to have it number. So when you read the configuration, this way you have to make a number from that. So how to do this? Do number. So you will go to setting 3 and say parse. If you remember our previous lesson, previous one from today, you have this parsing step. And here's the interesting thing. If I come here and copy all this, look, clear? I get 7.1. It's not quoted. This is really number. I'm parsing that as a number. But I have this guy here, invariant culture. This is basically tells me, hey, this number which you give, I don't know on what kind of operative system you are running. And I'm running now on, I'm not quite sure. It's my original setting is German, but my operative system is US one. All keyboard and everything, but numbers are German. So European. So that means we don't use the dot here for that. So that means if I now come here and remove this, which would be just normal parsing thing, which I have shown you in the previous example, and hit enter, it will show me this. So what happened with this number is it's a completely different number, 721, and you just wanted to have some point something. Because these commas, yeah, it's just not decimal place. It's digit delimited. So when you write a software, you have to make a choice. You have to know what are you doing. Sometimes you want to work exactly as user installed, but then you have to deal with this thing. If you want to ignore what user did, you say environment culture. But you can also, instead of this environment culture, you can say new culture Indian, yeah? And it's whatever is German, whatever user, it's always by Indian culture. And you can pick that and use. Invariant is they didn't want to call it English and to say, hey, English is international one. No, because environment is international, which is coincidentally English. Yeah? Okay. Now we have this, and here's something interesting. Sometimes you want to group your settings. Look at it. You want that these settings are in some subgroup. This is called subsection. Not here. These settings are in the root. Yeah, and these are here. And you can also have here more groups, and the groups can have groups, and the group can have groups, and so on. You can do crazy things. So how to deal with that? And to do this, you say get section, which is called my subsettings, and my subsetting is exactly this. And then when you have a section, the section is the same thing like configuration is just section, just different name. It's the same interface. And you say, hey, give me from this section now, subsetting 1, subsetting 2, subsetting 3, which is setting 1, setting 2, setting 3. And you see we are reading now these settings and not this setting. So this is different. So we have the hello from subsetting, and you can take a look. Hello from subsetting is a big number. Also another number. This is how to work with that. So now, how to deal with environment variables. So this is not now configuration. As I want to have it, it is environment variable. And these environment variables, I can come here and say, give me any environment variable. Configuration of computer name, configuration of computer name. And environment variable would be environment. Environment variable. I can get all, let me see, do this, yeah, first of that. You can get a list of all environment variables in the system. This is sometimes very usable independent of the configuration. Or if you want to have a specific one, you will copy username, and this would be my machine. This is how the computer is called. So, because I don't want now to know if this setting, it is settings like any other. I say, give me the setting value, which name, computer name. And if you say, I don't have this guy here, it's not here. It is also not here. And it is also not here. But it really is in the code somewhere. In this place, I don't know where. But I know because this is demo, it is coming from environment variables. And we can have 10, 10, 10. Machine name, it is this one, you see. This is this one. So it's interesting. Intel 64, blah, blah, blah. And AAA is 0, 0, 0, 0. Where did that come from? It's coming from here. Any question?
Can we say this is how we have .NET on the .NET page, and then sometimes it auto detects which computer do we have?
I didn't get your question. You want to know which computer you have?
Yeah, like the configuration, whether it's 32-bit, 64-bit.
Environment variable. You just read environment variable. And the best way would be for that, if you want to know, you cannot find everything. Yeah. But here, somewhere on this, here you will see which configuration. Yeah.
In your local environment, also ISO AAA written.
Yes, it is also AAA I have here, and I also have AAA somewhere here.
Yeah, so
So that means it was not reading this one, it was reading another one, because we can take a look here. We say command line arguments is the last one. If I change now this, let me see. Change this. And put add environment variables at the end. Yeah, let me see, where was this? This one it's not. This one we put the breakpoint to AAA. That's here. So let's put here. One, two, three, four. Now I need to find where 1, 2, 3, 4 coming from. Where's 1, 2, 3, 4? You see? 2, 1. No. Where does this come from? Here. Look at here. This is something I didn't tell you. You can specify in Visual Studio environment variable. When your application starts, Visual Studio set environment variable to this value. So that means when Visual Studio set this, you will not see that here, because this window is a static one. It's, if I would refresh the window, then it will show me that. But it's static one. So this was a bad example, but let's change this and you will see that this works. If I will put this start again. It's 22. And what we can do now, let me see this. So this is an environment variable, we know because we see that. Usually we should know that. I covering this back. So did you see that? Right mouse click, set next statement. And while the application is running, I change the code and move the cursor back. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just exactly this thing. Okay. So this is how to deal with settings. So, but these can be by more complex settings, a little bit complicated because you always need to configuration this, and this is a lot of work. You might have this even easier, much better way to do that, and this is follow. You can now create a class, like my settings, and look at my setting is here. If you don't know, you say right mouse click and come to my settings. And in these my settings, you have something like some integer, some string, and some float. Let's go to settings. Some string, some integer, some float, some integer, some string, some float. My setting. I have created the class and described the class in JSON in setting file. So let's read this one. And to read that, you have to create the instance of the class. When I create the instance of the class, there is nothing in there. That's default values. 0, 0, no. Now I go to the configuration section, my settings, and there is a method which is called bind, and bind this setting to the my settings file. So once I do that, okay, I will take this, my settings, and move it to watch window and open up this. You see that? And I want to see everything. Then I say F10 and watch below what happened. When you see below something what is in watch window, when at this moment of the statement execution change, it will get a red color. That means these variables are. This is sometimes very usable in debugger because if you have 50 variables and just 3 change, it just shows you these 3. So, and now change it all because it read from these settings and put it then inside here. So this is, so look at now, why is that good? If you take a look on the same example, like here, I was reading here, give me one setting, setting 1, setting 2, setting 3, setting 4, setting 500. Here is a single line of code that just say bind. And you get settings read exactly in the way how you want to have it in the class. And you have it in the class. This is nice. There is no better way to have some object than to have a class. And last but not least, there is here all settings. All settings is another class which can have more than single one. So I say all setting contains setting 1, setting 2, setting 3, and my settings. If I come here, sorry, this one, it will have setting 1, setting 2, these 3, and my setting. So actually I have a class which will at once read this and this, but all of this I don't care. Yeah. So you can create your class as you like, but it should just match this JSON file, which is in there. You are sleeping. You are getting tired. I see that. But 5 more minutes. F10. So I found that, and you see, here's a setting 1, hello, 1, 2, 3, 71, and here is some float and so on. So this is actually everything about configuration. So to recap, the configuration of the application can be from environment variables, can be from files, JSON file in this case, can be from command line arguments, or you can implement something like it. If you implement this provided, there is described how to do that. You can read from WhatsApp message if you like, no problem, but nobody's going to do that. So you can read value by value, just as a dictionary configuration. Value is called this way, I give you the value. So, or you can go to subsettings, read the subsetting section, and read value by value. Finally, you can create a class which just deserializes everything and read it at once in the single line of code. One more thing, if you are sometimes providing something like this, my settings, some float value by command line argument, not from a file. So you have a flat file and providing nested configuration, which is actually contradictory. You can do that this way. If that happens, sometimes you have to do that. In this semester, you will not need that, but the next one, when we work with cloud computing, you will need a lot of these things in the middle of this step. Any questions, guys? Also remote audience. No? I have also no questions. So then thank you so much for today. I will stop recording right now, and everybody who might have some questions after that, we can take this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Since now .NET